Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here today. We're talking all about WWE's Super Showdown. This is a big show that's going to be coming to you live Saturday, October 6th. This is going to be a little bit of a weird time. This says that it's going to be at 6 p.m. I honestly don't even know what time 6 p.m. that is, if that's in Australia or if that's here. One thing leads to another is that this is a pay-per-view that Stevie Breach will not be watching live. To me, this reminds me a lot of WWE's Super Showdown. No, this is the Super Showdown, you idiot. This reminds me a lot of the World's Greatest Royal Rumble. Obviously, WWE finally having a major pay-per-view outside of the United States. Yet, once again, we all know that there's sort of a background deal going on that somebody in Australia is paying for this show. WWE always makes lots of money. WCW made money. Lots of independents make lots of money. Australia is a hotbed for wrestling. It's been there for a long time. One of the reasons is I think just the cost of travel, that a lot of places or a lot of companies don't really go there. I think one of the top talents, I think it was Osprey, bases himself out of Australia because of how much he's able to do shows there and how much money they make. It just makes more sense for him. WWE going there. This is going to be a big show. I still can remember when WWE announced that this Super Showdown was going to be going down. They immediately announced, I think they announced Kevin Owens versus John Cena as a singles match one time, which has now been turned into a tag match with Elias as well as Bobby Lashley. Joining the team, Undertaker versus Triple H, definitely a big main event for the show. They're billing it up as the last time that this match is even going to happen, but most people that are future telling what's going to be going down with Shawn Michaels being there, and as well as Kane making the trip, is that we're going to be seeing some sort of a tag match at the next Saudi Arabia show, which is coming up in just a few weeks. That's what's kind of weird, is that definitely, I know that everybody pays $9.99 for the WWE Network, but lots of shows coming up on the WWE Network with, you've got the Crown Jewel show, you've got Evolution, you've got this Super Showdown, and then there's got to be like a real pay-per-view, or maybe Evolution took the pay-per-view spot for this month. I know that when I think of October, I normally think of Hell in the Cell, but we just had that show. So definitely, if you watch these shows, even if you don't watch them live, we're all going to be getting our money's worth, even if you don't watch anything like the classic shows or the Table for Threes or anything like that. That's going to be popping up. So that's going on kind of weird with it. To me, when I look at the Super Showdown, this looks kind of like an elevated house show, as I guess they're going to have pyro, a lot like the Saudi Arabia show. That's going to be one thing that sort of separates it out. But the matches on here, there's some matches that really do entertain me, and there's some matches that I'm just like, this might be the one reason why I'm fast forwarding through this show. 205 Live is going to be having a match with Cedric Alexander going up against Buddy Murphy. You've got Asuka and Naomi going up against the Iconics. The New Day against The Bar. Daniel Bryan versus The Miz. This is going to be a number one contenders match. The winner's going to fight the winner of AJ Styles and Samoa Joe. They're going to be wrestling for the WWE Championship. This will be the third match they've had in just a little bit at a time. Cena making his return to WWE, wrestling with Bobby Lashley going up against Kevin Owens and Elias. Becky Lynch versus Charlotte Flair in the rematch for the SmackDown's Women's Belt. Ronda Rousey and the Bella Twins going up against the Riot Squad. We've got AJ and Joe for the WWE Championship. The Shield teaming up against Braun Strowman, Dolph Ziggler, and Drew McIntyre. And in the main event, The Undertaker versus Triple H. This is probably going to be a really good show, guys. There's going to be a little bit of filler. I just got to hope the match quality lives up and we see what goes down with this show. So we'll see what goes down. Super Showdown. Let's talk about some matches, guys. All right, 205 Live, the Cruiserweight Championship, more than likely going to be kicking off the WWE Super Showdown, coming to you live from Australia. This is going to be a big show. for Buddy Murphy. Buddy Murphy, you know, of course, with Blake and Murphy, the big tag team from NXT back in the day, that didn't really work out with them getting elevated to the main roster. It was almost like they ran out of steam, even though I thought they were a really good tag team. They parted ways, and Buddy Murphy, even though he did a couple different things in NXT after the tag team, finally found his way to 205 Live, and he's been a really good quality wrestler. I think he even had one championship shot against Cedric Alexander already, but this one's going to be taking place in his hometown. He is the hometown boy here. He's probably even going to be treated like he is the babyface going up against Cedric Alexander. And to me, this is Cedric Alexander's first match that I really think he has a chance to drop the championship. Buddy Murphy, I think, would be a really good champion for 205 Live, but Cedric Alexander has overcame the odds, you know, beating this guy, beating that guy, you know, since winning the championship at WrestleMania this year. Buddy Murphy, I really like him. I think that he's going to get the belt here. We'll see what goes down with this match at the Super Showdown. All right, second match of the WWE Super Showdown coming to you live from Australia is going to be Asuka and Naomi going up against the Iconics. This match, to me, I think is going to be a really good match that sets up something for WWE's Evolution pay-per-view. Seeing how it's already sort of out there, just hasn't been officially announced, that we are going to be crowning WWE Women's Tag Team Champions. I know that we thought that this was going to be named a few months back when Stephanie McMahon said that she was going to have a monumental announcement for a Monday Night Raw. At that announcement, she ended up announcing the Evolution pay-per-view, but there were people like me and some other people who thought that we were going to be seeing the tag team championships make their debut there. The Iconics is a real tag team, two girls. They're sort of like their own little faction in the women's division. You've also got basically what used to be Absolution. You've got the Riot Squad. There's a couple of girls out there that have their own thing going. But then of course you're always going to have, you know, the team of like Nia Jax teaming up with somebody, because there's just two people on the roster who just really don't have anything going for them. To me, Asuka and Naomi are those two girls from SmackDown. Since Naomi won the Miss WrestleMania Battles Royal back at WrestleMania, she hasn't really done anything on SmackDown that I've seen. And as also, Asuka hasn't really done anything since that same amount of time when she dropped the championship. No, she didn't drop a championship. She never had it. Since losing her undefeated streak at WrestleMania to Charlotte. So I think that this is, I don't really want to say that this is a number one contenders match, because the announcement, or I guess it wasn't even really announced, but the card that slipped for the Evolution show, I think had a 4 corners like sort of match to crown the tag team champions. I know the Iconics were on the list, and I'm pretty sure Asuka and Naomi were named on there. I know one of the other teams was Beth Phoenix and Natalya, and I can't remember who the other group was, but definitely this match I think is going to roll over to Evolution with the upcoming tag belt. So maybe in this match we don't really have a finish, we just have sort of a skirmish, which then that leads to adding more girls to it to find out how they're going to name the first group of you know, women's tag team champions. But they might also do some sort of a tournament using SmackDown and Raw, building up Evolution at the same time. So we'll see, but I think this is going to get us there. At WWE's Super Showdown, we're going to get Daniel Bryan versus The Miz one more time. I can honestly tell you that at one point, Daniel Bryan versus The Miz was easily one of the hottest matches that I really wanted to happen. And then we had to wait and wait. And then Daniel Bryan came back at WrestleMania in a match with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. And then when that storyline was sort of finished, we got Daniel Bryan against Big Cass. Definitely a match that nobody wanted to see. And people said that we're going to have to wait until WrestleMania And then at SummerSlam, we finally got Daniel Bryan versus The Miz, which ended in The Miz getting a cheap victory after Maurice handed Miz some sort of a foreign object, which he used to gain the pinfall and get the win. But then at Hell in the Cell, we got a mixed tag using both partners' wives. We had Brie and Maurice rolling around in the ring with them, where basically Maurice and The Miz stole another victory. So now here we are at the third match, and I've talked about it a lot of times that definitely when WWE puts together a series of matches, which I bet they did a lot back in the day, just then there was less pay-per-views, but somehow when I realized every feud in WWE goes 3 months, I always sort of lose focus in what is going on. Definitely, you can see the Daniel Bryan versus Miz has been going on since SummerSlam. Samoa Joe versus AJ Styles is another match that's going on since SummerSlam. Both of these stories basically have to have a finish. We have to tie a bow on these, and everybody has to go in their own separate directions. The one thing that we have going for Daniel Bryan versus The Miz is that the winner gets a shot at the WWE Championship. They don't really crown them #1 contender, so we don't really know if the WWE Championship shot, I mean, it could be at another house show, which is going to be in Australia, that we don't even get to see. We don't know if it's going to take place on SmackDown. We don't know if it's going to take place at the Survivor Series. We don't know when this match is going to happen. But definitely, Daniel Bryan versus The Miz, it goes back all the way to Talking Smack and then having interviews on SmackDown when Daniel Bryan was just the GM, and because of his neck problems, it was never going to happen. But we can see that, Daniel Bryan's already got that shot in. That was the whole storyline of SummerSlam. He just wanted to punch him one time in the face. He didn't care if he really won or lost. He wanted to go out and prove he was the best wrestler. He got cheated. Brie got into the action. She wanted to get a shot at Maurice for getting her shot in at SummerSlam. So that's sort of out of the way. Daniel Bryan as a wrestler needs to put it in gear and win this match so we can see him have a championship shot. Daniel Bryan is that guy that we all get to get behind. We all get to yes, yes, yes. The fans ruined a Royal Rumble that was won by Roman Reigns because of the fact that they wanted Bryan to win and he wasn't even in it. Then the next Rumble he was in, he got eliminated by Bray Wyatt, and the people, went bananas. No, the first one that they messed up was the one that Batista won. Then they messed up the one that Roman won. So both of those guys, pretty fan favorites in WWE, even though Roman doesn't get any respect. So why the fans would ruin those matches, I don't know. But that's sort of the mystery. WWE, I think they would love to push Daniel Bryan, but there's those question marks around him to be the #1 contender guy. The Miz, if he was to become the #1 contender, I can see him having a match against Samoa Joe. I can see him having a match against AJ Styles. And the Miz, in my book, I don't want to just hand him the title, but the Miz should be rewarded because this guy's been knocking it out of the park for the last 2-3 years in WWE with just about almost anything that he's done. Promos, matches, almost everything's been dynamite. So I can see this one going the other way. With Daniel Bryan getting the win, but both as long as these guys go out there and their plan is to have a real good, high quality match that people are viewing as a pay-per-view, I think we're gonna be all right. If we get another, sort of world's greatest Royal Rumble match, not that these guys did that, but if we get another match like John Cena versus Triple H, or if we get another match like Undertaker versus Rusev, people should see through it and they should just crap all over it. But I'm hoping that Daniel Bryan versus The Miz, both of these guys are really good workers. I hope they put the work in. I hope Bryan gets the win and we see Bryan be champion in WWE again. Alright, this match honestly gives me a little bit of I have no clue what the hell is going on here. We've got the tag team of John Cena and Bobby Lashley going up against Kevin Owens and Elias. I can't really remember the year. If I had to guess, it'd be like 08, maybe 09. We had the matchup of John Cena versus Bobby Lashley. I think this was at the Great American Bash. But this, honestly, in my mind, was one of the worst matches that WWE's had as a main event of a pay-per-view in a long time. They tried to have this match as babyface versus babyface, Cena versus Lashley. I think they got a little bit of a cold feet on the last edition of Monday Night Raw. Bobby Lashley had a little bit of a heel turn, but they didn't want to get all the way behind it, which led to the fans not knowing to cheer Lashley. They just wanted to make sure that they didn't cheer John Cena, and it just was awkward. And I think it worked out that they just had a really bad match. John Cena coming back and teaming with Lashley sort of makes sense. They're big powerhouses. Both of them are big dudes. But I don't know. And especially adding Lilo Rush from 205 Live as the manager of Bobby Lashley. I honestly want to see a little bit of a mix-up between Cena and Lashley. I don't know if that's the direction they're going, but I think that would be really fun, where basically Rush is basically, messing with John Cena, and Cena gets enough of him, hits him with the attitude adjustment. Maybe Lashley will turn on Cena. Something has to come out of this heel and babyface manager team, where maybe Lashley's going to turn heel. I think that it would be fun if they did it here, which it could lead to Cena coming back. Let me just say that I see the pictures that John Cena posts on Twitter. I see that WWE, retweets them. He's over there in China. I don't know what he's doing. If he's making a movie, if he's doing a TV show, if he's just over there chilling. I really got no clue, but he's got a weird looking haircut, and he's ripped to the gills. I know that when they did the big show in China, which they hyped up, which ended up not being on the WWE Network, Cena wrestled on that show, and they showed pictures of it, and he looked really weird there. I want to know how this is going to live up to today. We're used to seeing Cena with that sort of buzz haircut, and now he's got this sort of like 80s, 90s dad do, which doesn't really make any sense. So I know I didn't talk about Owens and Elias. They had a really good promo on Monday Night Raw, but I want to see something go down between Lashley and Cena, and that's what I'm looking for at the Super Showdown. Either that, or we'll just get the boring normal tag match where the babyfaces just get the victory, and it doesn't really do anything other than, hey, we got to see John Cena at the Super Showdown. All right, as of late, we've seen in WWE the comeback of the Bellas. To me, I think the Bellas are mostly coming back sort of to hype up the WWE Evolution pay-per-view. We've seen the Bellas in the corner of Ronda Rousey, cheering them on a lot. I think the Bellas made their first appearance ringside cheering on Ronda Rousey at WrestleMania. And since then, they've been at SummerSlam, they've been at Monday Night Raw, they've been in the corner of Ronda just about all the time. And now here at the Super Showdown, we're going to have Ronda Rousey and the Bellas teaming up against the Riot Squad. I know one of the stories that a lot of people are going to be talking about, honestly, is that, Brie Bella kicked Liv Taylor in the mouth and basically knocked her. No, I said Liv Taylor. Liv Morgan. I was wondering why the hell it didn't seem right, and I just kept on thinking about it. Kicked her in the mouth, and it knocked her out. And they dragged her over to the corner. Liv is basically made a full recovery. She is going to be a part of the Super Showdown, wrestling in this match. But I think the Riot Squad will be getting the victory here, because I think that what they're doing right now is they're trying to set up this Nikki Bella versus Ronda Rousey match for WWE's Evolution. This has sort of been the main event that has been rumored for the card. We've heard about this before we even saw the card on paper. And to me, I think the only way that you can really get there is Nikki Bella has to turn on Ronda Rousey somewhere, and them teaming up in the same match. I know that we've been looking for Natalya to be the one to stab her in the back, but it's almost like the Bellas has taken Natalya's place as head cheerleader, and the only reason I can see that is that they're going to be having some sort of a match somewhere down the road. So having Nikki turn on Ronda. I think that puts Brie sort of in a weird place. I mean, I know that probably this has got a lot to do with either total Bellas or total Divas, where they're shooting stuff backstage, where Nikki's gonna have to say that, you know, here I am trying to have my comeback, and I'm having matches on pay-per-view, I'm having matches on Monday Night Raw, but I want to be the champion again. I'm the longest reigning WWE Women's Champion, or I guess she was the Divas Champion. Now she wants she wants her place back. She wants to be that top dog now that her neck's healed. But you know, this is Ronda Rousey's world. Ronda's going to introduce her to a whole new world of pain. I wouldn't want to be the girl who turns on Ronda Rousey, but I think Nikki Bella's got to figure that out for herself come Evolution. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Bellas disappear after Evolution and fade off into the middle of nowhere, maybe coming back around WrestleMania time, because Nikki's neck, I don't think is going to be back, you know, to where it needs to be. And I think that they'll be running their other outside companies as well as trying to get back to WWE. But I don't really think that WWE is on the main burner for the Bellas at this point in their career. They've pretty much seen it and done it all, and there's better workers inside the company that could be, you know, hammering it out during the months when the money maybe isn't as well as WrestleMania time. A match that honestly in my mind is going to be a really fun one is going to be Becky Lynch against Charlotte Flair. This is going to be the rematch for the SmackDown's Women's Championship. We had the definite SummerSlam storyline of Charlotte Flair slipping into the three-way. And then we had Becky Lynch being upset that Charlotte won the championship, taking away her right to be it. And then, you know, basically Becky called out Charlotte, and Charlotte still wanted to be friends. They still had one more match, but in that one, Becky finally turned the corner and I think showed her true colors, that the championship means more than any friendship there is backstage in WWE. This was Becky's second run, I believe, with the championship on SmackDown, and she wants to show off to the world that she isn't the forgotten horseman, that, you know, she wants to be the main girl that really gets to run with it. Charlotte's got her time, Sasha Banks has got her time, and now Becky wants to show off that it's her time to shine. We're going to be getting the rematch at the Super Showdown. Definitely, in my mind, I think it's too early for them to do some sort of a title change between the girls. But Charlotte really has been getting her comeuppance, I guess you can say. Becky's been handing her some whoopings as of late. And sometimes when you see the babyface getting beat up too many times on TV, it means that she's going to get her retribution at the pay-per-view. But I know that some people have this sort of thing in their mind that Becky Lynch is going to become the next Stone Cold Steve Austin, where, you know, she's fighting for the people, and, you know, she's got a storyline that people can relate to and that people care about, that, you know, they thought they were friends with somebody, but maybe a big promotion comes at work and, you know, they turn on them to get it. To me, honestly, I think this is cut and dry babyface and heel. I think that Charlotte is a babyface because she is the one that they see, you know, going on to WrestleMania to have a big match, maybe against, you know, Ronda Rousey. But, you know, to me, I think that Becky's playing heel right now. There's going to come a day when they turn her back babyface, and I'm sure she'll be all, you know, fun and games with Charlotte, because Charlotte and Becky already had this beef between them once before over the Divas Championship, where Charlotte was playing the heel, where she turned on Becky. So I think that we're just at that point in the story where Becky's playing the heel. I don't think that there's any big thing to make Becky the main face of the women's division or anything like that. I think that Charlotte's got to get that belt back. It's just part of the story. It just might not be today. I think that's a little bit too early. Right now, I'm picking Becky Lynch to win over Charlotte in the Super Showdown. All right, what is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you. This will probably be the last video that I have battery for to make in the rent-a-car here, but AJ Styles versus Samoa Joe is the big match for WWE Super Showdown, coming to you live from Australia. This is going to be for the WWE Championship. This is the third match that they've had. You go back to SummerSlam, the match ended in a disqualification. They were using the whole Samoa Joe against the basically AJ Styles, using his family against him storyline, which sort of was dropped before Hell in the Cell. At Hell in the Cell, I I was a little bit outspoken that maybe that should have been a Hell in a Cell match at the pay-per-view instead of Orton versus Jeff Hardy, seeing how basically Samoa Joe was using his family against him, and AJ Styles really wanted to inflict some pain on Joe. Instead, it was a singles match, and at that match, we saw AJ tap out pretty much at the same time that he was pinning Samoa Joe. And Paige said that they were going to have the rematch for the championship. This is probably the last time that we're going to see it at the Super Showdown, because Joe deserved it. You can go back, you can watch the instant replay. At the same time that the 2 count went down, AJ Styles taps out against the belly of Samoa Joe, basically saying that he could not keep going in the clutch, and he tapped. Instead, the referee was out of position and didn't see it, even though we all saw it. The referee, his decision is final, and that's what he said he wanted to go with. We'll see. This is going to be a big match. You also have to keep into consideration what's going on with Daniel Bryan and The Miz, the number 1 contenders match. I, for one, think The Miz versus AJ Styles would be a really good match to see on SmackDown, where The Miz gets, put up into that upper tier. Daniel Bryan going up against Samoa Joe is a dream match that at least I've never seen it before. If it took place in Ring of Honor or in some sort of independence before Bryan Danielson came to WWE, I can tell you that I've never seen it. And if there is any recommendations, I've got the best of Samoa Joe in Ring of Honor. I've got a few Daniel Bryan DVDs from Ring of Honor. Maybe it's just I haven't seen it, and I need to go check out one of those DVDs. Somebody let me know if this match has happened before. But if not, I want to see it in a WWE ring, even though, the last few dream matches that WWE has brought to the table, Nakamura versus AJ Styles versus Samoa Joe, to me, really haven't been knocked out of the park. They've just sort of been matches that have ended in disqualifications, and I think that they've just squandered any opportunity that there is for them to have a really good match. So we'll have to see what goes down with this one. At the pay-per-view, this is going to be a really good match, guys. I think that AJ Styles is going to pull this out against Samoa Joe. I feel bad for Joe, but obviously they're building up to something with AJ, and for them just to do a title change at the Super Showdown in Australia, I don't really know where that goes. I think that a title change here in the United States even if it's just some I don't know, now I feel like I'm shitting on Australia. But I think that the title change, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen somewhere here in the United States. So that's what I'm looking forward to. So that's going to be all I got time for today. I'll have to come back to you guys with the Shield match, as well as the Triple H versus Undertaker one. So I hope you guys enjoy these, and I catch you guys, and I'll see you down the road. Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here today. I apologize. We are no longer in the Stevie Breach rental car, as we are at home today now that work is all over. The final, I guess, co-main as well as main event matches for WWE Super Showdown is going to involve The Shield going up against the team of Braun Strowman, Dolph Ziggler, and Drew McIntyre. On WWE Monday Night Raw this week, we had a lot of tension build up between The Shield. Dean Ambrose had to pick whether if he was going to fight Strowman, or if he was going to have a shot at the WWE Universal Championship against Roman Reigns, or even an Intercontinental title match against Seth Rollins. Braun Strowman came out and ended up being Ambrose versus Strowman, where Roman would come down and end up getting involved, sort of picking his nose in Ambrose's business. But this is all built up from last week's edition of Monday Night Raw, where basically the Shield came down for a tag match, and there we had Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins posing with their WWE championships, and Dean Ambrose just sort of standing around with nothing to hold up, and them just trying to build some tension between the Shield. And of course, Ambrose is a former WWE champion, as well as an Intercontinental champion, a United States champion, a tag champion. He's held just about every title there is in WWE. And of course, even though the Shield is a brotherhood, everybody wants to be champion, even if it means, taking it from your fellow friend. As you can remember back to Money in the Bank a couple of years ago, where Roman walked in as the champion, lost it to Rollins, and then was cashed in by Dean Ambrose. I really think that they're just trying to play some head games, and definitely Dean Ambrose has to be one of the best guys in WWE at basically planting that seed and building up tension. That isn't really there, just trying to get some sort of psychological warfare with Strowman's team coming into the match, basically thinking that they're already picking the Shield apart. And then once it's all said and done, the Shield, of course, rides together as they always do. Definitely, in my mind, the Shield breakup would be a big thing in WWE. This is a match that we've all been clamoring for to see at WrestleMania. For the past few years. I think people thought we were going to get it at 29, 30, maybe even at 32, people thought it was going to happen. But someday at WrestleMania, we're really going to get that match. Even though we did see this at Battleground a few years ago, where the match was really built around who was going to be the WWE champion going into the WWE draft. Ambrose ended up getting the win, and SmackDown rode off into the sunset, making it look like they were the $1 Million Bucks. But WWE. Monday Night Raw, Stephanie McMahon and Mick Foley would come out with the Universal Championship to make sure that they had their own championship on their own brand. Strowman, definitely one of the strongest guys in WWE. Kind of a waste that honestly he doesn't have his Money in the Bank briefcase anymore. I do understand the fact that he did call out Roman Reigns for the match. I guess that would be sort of cashing in the briefcase. But even though the match ended in a no contest with Brock Lesnar coming down, in my mind, just in the interest of fairness, Strowman should still have that briefcase. But I know that Baron Corbin cashed in his Money in the Bank and was sort of cheated on by John Cena getting involved in the match between Corbin and Jinder Mahal. I think that we've seen other guys, maybe not. Maybe there just hasn't been just a full-on disqualification during a cash-in, but it is pretty smart. I mean, if your guy's got the briefcase and he's about to become champion, do you really want him to become champion? I mean, if he's the guy that you're feuding with, I guess you would get a championship shot. The one thing that's in my mind more than anything else is the steel cage match between Bret Hart and Psycho Sid on Monday Night Raw before WrestleMania 12. 12. And basically, The Undertaker and Stone Cold Steve Austin come down to the ring, both helping out the person that they're having the rivalry against, because they want their match to be a championship match. Stone Cold wants a shot at the title, and that was probably the easiest way for him to get it, was by Bret winning the match. And Undertaker wants to protect his championship shot at WrestleMania, because he doesn't want his match against Sid just to become a normal, just regular match. So, I guess you gotta see both sides of the fence. To me, honestly, I'm picking the Shield just because of just because of the way I'm thinking is that this match is being held in Australia, and even though this is looked at as sort of the October's major pay-per-view for the month, I don't think that a Shield breakup is going to come on the Global Warming Tour, aka the Super Showdown, because of the fact that you want the fans to go home happy. The Shield are three of the biggest baby faces in the company. Definitely, they are the guys that are the workhorses of WWE. They do all the house shows. They do TV. Basically, they're not at the point of their career when they're picking and choosing when they're going to work, a lot like Triple H and The Undertaker, who are in the main event that people will be happy to see. I think that we're just going to get the triple power bomb either on Strowman, Ziggler, or McIntyre, and I think that everybody goes home happy with the Shield victory. And maybe if there is some animosity between the Shield, they let that boil up, they let that build up more before they just throw it out the window and have the Shield, spontaneously combust at one of the first chances they have to team up. This definitely was one of the major angles that was going to play out in last year's late part of the year for WWE. There's been word that came out that Ambrose was supposed to be the one to turn on the Shield, which would lead to Rollins versus Ambrose. I believe the Intercontinental Championship would be somehow involved in that match, but at WrestleMania. But instead, they ended up going the direction where it was going to be Rollins against Jordan, and that match ended up being broken up as well by Jordan's neck injury, which I hope someday this guy does return back to WWE. Instead, we ended up getting Rollins, The Miz, and Balor. It makes me wonder how Balor was even going to fit into the WrestleMania plans if he wasn't going to be in the plans for the Intercontinental Championship match. So plans change, and sometimes guys, even though they are a big-time favorite in WWE, get bumped to the back. So we'll see what goes down with this one. I got the Shield getting the win. What do you guys think? All right, here we go. We have made it to the main event of WWE Super Showdown 2018, The Undertaker versus Triple H. The end of an era, part 2, the final be-all, say-all, the last match between these two until next month. Or until later in the month, I apologize, when there's a tag team match between The Undertaker and Kane going up against Triple H and Shawn Michaels. The Undertaker has called upon his brother to be in his corner to try and even the odds as Triple H is bringing his friend Shawn Michaels along for the ride. It looks like we're going to be seeing a reunion of sorts of the Brothers of Destruction as well as D-Generation X. I, for one, am really glad that The Undertaker versus Triple H is going to be the main event of the Super Showdown in Australia, for the one reason that I was really hoping that this was going to be a real match. Everyone can look back at the World's Greatest Royal Rumble card. It was a good... it was a fun show, I guess you could say. It took place in the middle of the day, a time that we're not supposed to be watching wrestling. We were watching something that it sort of felt like we weren't supposed to be watching. It was just supposed to be sort of like a house show for Saudi Arabia. And that's sort of the feel that I get about the Super Showdown, is that they want to go to Australia, they want to put on a big show. Well, we got a network, let's just put it on TV. But when I look at that Undertaker versus Rusev casket match, I look at that John Cena versus Triple H match, both of them weren't that good. I mean, they were both, were matches that you would think that you would see if WWE came to my neck of the woods, if I went and go see him in Stockton at the Stockton Civic Center or something like that. Or maybe if I got lucky, I went and saw, this match at the Arco Arena back in the day, or I guess they run house shows at Golden One, even though it's a really nice place. Whatever it is, that when they're in our town. The Undertaker versus Triple H, two of the biggest names that there's ever been in the history of wrestling. The Undertaker's got to be close to the point where he's packing it in. It looks like he's, doing the World's Greatest Royal Rumble. He's doing... there's rumors that he might work Survivor Series. It reminds me to a couple of years ago when Undertaker came back in the middle of the year, was working those series of matches against Brock Lesnar. I know that the Undertaker's made a lot of money in his career. He's been one of the main guys in WWE, but everybody wants to pack on a few more zeros onto that bank account before they really ride off into the sunset. Undertaker's the guy that they've always really taken care of. They let him wrestle as much or as little as he feels like, and sometimes it's just he only wrestles at WrestleMania. Sometimes he comes back for big shows or house shows that they need him at. I think that we gotta be getting to the point of this is it for The Undertaker. We've seen him lose at WrestleMania 30. We thought that was it. We saw him come back after that. We saw him lose to Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. We saw, him basically his soul eaten by Bray Wyatt. This guy has seen it all, to where every time we thought this is the last time we're going to see The Undertaker, and he keeps coming back out there. He is the dead man, but some match out there has to be his last match. If the match isn't going to be against Triple H, who is that match going to be against? Because I got no clue. I had a thought a few years ago where maybe Undertaker and Kane would have their retirement matches against each other. But at this point, we haven't really seen any heat between the Brothers of Destruction, between Undertaker and Kane. Maybe something will come out of these singles matches, or I'm sorry, these tag matches that are supposed to come up down the road, and we can build toward that. Maybe Undertaker and Kane both just spontaneously combust into the ring and just fall into the urn, and they trap them up, and that's all she wrote for that storyline. It's one of the only true storylines that WWE has written for two characters, where a character who's been around for a while because has a brother, and that brother has hatred for them killing their father. Or maybe it was killing their mother and their father. I don't really remember. But they even wrote a WWE novel about Kane that few people read or few people have seen. But there is a backstory to all of this. Triple H and Taker, two of the biggest names in the business. We thought that we had everything that these guys can do. They had one of the best WrestleMania matches that I can honestly say that I've ever seen, let alone one of, I think, the best WrestleMania matches that have ever been at WrestleMania 27. WrestleMania 28 was a different style of match inside of the Hell in the Cell. They told a great story where it looked like the master plan was going to be that they found a way to end the streak of The Undertaker. But even with Shawn Michaels as a special guest referee, Triple H was not able to make it happen. And as you can remember, the end of that match was just basically Triple H saying, "I can't beat you," and just put me out of my misery with Tombstone. So, a lot of people are thinking that The Undertaker is going to win this match. I believe at one point they took a toll of the WWE Universe, and it was 89% of the votes for Undertaker, only 11 for Triple H. I think that if they're going to be coming back with a tag match, definitely, I would guess the heel Triple H has to get the victory, but Triple H has Shawn Michaels with him. So how is Shawn Michaels going to be playing the heel? So I don't know what to expect out of this. I hope Triple H wins because I've always been a fan of Triple H. He's one of my favorite guys there is. So I think that's where I'm going to stand. Triple H for the win. Hopefully this is going to be a good show. It's got some good matches. It's got some good things that could happen. Definitely a fun title change somewhere along the way. Could get people talking to where people remember about this. But I think a lot of this is just going to be sort of setting up for what's going to happen for WWE, either with the girls' matches at Evolution or with the next pay-per-view being WWE's Crown Jewel from Saudi Arabia.